Hi, well, I'm back on Staunton Road and I'm not going to stay there very long. I'm going to video Sandfield Road, which is off it, curving to the right. And this is my fourth video for When in Spain 925. He wanted Headington Hill Park, Cuckoo Lane, and then Staunton and Sandfield Roads. And I've done Staunton Road separately as it's easier to organise, and I'm now going to do Sandfield, and I'm going to walk in this direction, sort of southish, because I think the light will be better that way. In the previous video, near when I started, I said, remember the Church of St Anthony of Padua, opened 1960, and I still want you to remember that because it will come up. So I'm now entering Sandfield Road at the north end, and since it's only about half an hour later possibly than when I started the previous video, it is still a lovely day. Best day so far. This is a funny sort of tail end of the road. And that colourful construction to the left is part of the John Radcliffe Hospital, and I'm fairly sure with the colour that it is a children's wing. I think it had something to do with a company called Carillon, who I'm not sure whether they exist anymore. You may just have seen a bus there go up beside the hospital to the bus park at the top. That is number 98 Sandfield Road. I said in my previous video that Staunton Road was probably named after Edmund Staunton, the president of Corpus Christi College. And it seems that Sandfield Road was probably named after a field, not surprisingly. Apparently, before Headington was built on, there were four large fields that made it up, called the roads, four roads were given names derived from those fields. One of them was Sandfield. The others were Highfield, Northfield and Southfield. So the fields were presumably either called Sandfield, Northfield, etc., or just Sand and North, etc. I don't know which. But in any case, this road gets its name from one of the four main fields that used to make up Headington. Like Staunton Road, this one is quite varied in style. Nice front gardens, lots of trees, spacious. Once again, you can see the John Radcliffe behind this. That is number 63, Sandfield Road. And remember I mentioned St Anthony of Padua? Well, this is where it becomes relevant. Now, I bet they get really fed up with sightseers standing on their property, so I'm going to move back a bit. There are pictures of that plaque on the web, so I'm not losing anything by not videoing it in great detail. This is one of the many houses that Tolkien lived in. So this is 76 Sandfield Road, and apparently he lived here from 1953 to 1968, and he lived at quite a few other houses before that. 99 Holywell Street from May 1950. Before that was number 3 Manor Road, round about 1949. Before that, 20 Northmoor Road, between 1930 and 1947. And before that, next door, 22 Northmoor Road from 1926. And those were his Oxford houses. And most of what I've read says that in 1968 he, quote, fled Sandfield Road. I've never thought of Sandfield Road as somewhere you needed to flee, but apparently some people do, to live in Bournemouth, because he was getting constant disturbance from fans of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Well, everybody knows about Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, so I don't think I need to say very much about those. While he was here, apparently, or while he was in this house, he apparently wrote The Fellowship of the Rings, 1954, The Two Towers, also 1954, and The Return of the King, 1955. So the plaque was apparently made of Portland stone and made for the person that owned the house after Tolkien left it, a Mr. Phillips, and it was made by Bill Brown of Kidlington, carved by Bill Brown of Kidlington sometime in the 70s. And on the left of it is the dragon Smaug from The Hobbit, that's Smaug. And then to the right of that is the hill. Halfway up the hill is a tunnel entrance. That's the entrance to Bag End, made by Bungo Baggins, apparently. And you're facing north into the picture, so somewhere to the south of the hill is Hobbiton, maybe around your back or possibly further back than that. So that's what you see on the plaque. And also on the plaque, there's a cross with 4 unusual letters, one at each point, and those apparently are dwarf runes known as Cirth or Cirth, Cirth, and used in Middle Earth to write the language Khuzdul. Okay, so that's number 76 Sandfield Road, and that's where Tolkien lived for part of his life in Oxford. And it's interesting to imagine him sort of hiding in there, being besieged by his fans. I wonder how many there were at any one time. That, to me, has a vaguely sort of Tolkien-esque air about it. I don't know why. Oh, and I forgot to mention St Anthony of Padua. That was the church, or one of the churches, that Tolkien attended regularly, that he worshipped at. Well, let's go back to the less distinguished inhabitants of Sandfield Road. This is the little private road that I mentioned earlier that joins us here with Staunton. And that leads into the car and bus park of the John Radcliffe.
The other one I've got two really change the other one again in a minute. But yeah, we've got the contractors. Yeah, basically they've got lights down.
People did get quite fanciful with some of these houses. There are some lovely trees here. I have no idea how long magnolia trees live for, or how high they grow, but I'm wondering whether any of these date back to when the road was built. Well, this is just glorious. We need a cafe on Sandfield Road so that we can just sit here and soak up the sun and the blossom. There is actually, well, there are several cafes in the hospital, but it's not quite the same. I do think, actually thinking about it, that the hospital should have as many trees as this, because I'm sure the spring blossom would lift patients' spirits. And it's lovely to hear the birds too. That's one of the advantages of having so many trees. So here I am back on Woodlands Road, which, as I say, is where Cuckoo Lane goes for part of its length. And to follow Cuckoo Lane further, you just go along there and you'll cross or pass the end of several streets on the way. This is Beach Road, which was built around the same time. Well, that thing ahead of us on the other side of the road is called Beach House. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's either a Brookes University building or some private student accommodation company. As I say, it's called Beach House, but I suspect the only thing beach about it is the number of beech trees that were demolished in making way for it. I'm thinking of the destruction wreaked by the Clive Booth student village on the other side of the lane that goes past the park, Headington Hill Park. And here I am at the end of Sandfield Road. So that's my fourth video for When in Spain 925, and that ends the things that they wanted to see. I'm now well on my way to Headington Shops, and I'm going to go somewhere that I haven't been since last year, namely the Thong Heng Oriental Supermarket, and buy some seaweed and maybe some Japanese mochi. And maybe I'll wave at the shark on the way. See you next time.